Hey, what's going on, MMA fans? This is your host, the J-Man, coming at you, and I want to talk about the entire MMA community, everything that's new and current in MMA. Let's talk about a few things. Okay, let's see here. UFC is always the primary. Okay, what's going on with the UFC right now? Remember that John Fitch BJ Penn fight that went to a draw? Yeah, okay. I didn't really get a chance to talk about that. My opinion was it shouldn't have been a draw. First of all, I think, I've said this before, but the MMA scoring system, the MMA judging, the rules really need to change. It shouldn't be designed. It should be designed in a way that you avoid having draws. No matter what, there's no draws. I'm not totally against them, but you want to have a system that clearly emphasizes a winner. Okay, so the rules need to be redone. But the rules the way they are, with the rules the way they are, that fight between John Fitch and BJ Penn, to me it really seemed like Fitch, it seemed like Fitch won that. Not by a lot, mind you, but I think he should have at least gotten a split decision win. I just don't see how it came to a draw, that's a huge disappointment when it turns out to be a draw. And then, you want to have a rematch. You got to schedule a rematch. But, the UFC tried to do that, and look what happened. I think both Fitch and Penn ended up getting injured. And so now they're like, well, what do we do? I don't even know if we're going to see that rematch. So who's going to be the top welterweight contender? We're looking at GSP just defended the title against Jake Shields in a boring match. Somewhat boring, but predictable, Who's the next number one contender? Is it Nick Diaz? Well, Nick Diaz hasn't officially signed on with UFC. I mean, he is a part of the parent company, but they haven't worked out a contract with him. Yes, he wants to fight GSP, but he also wants to do boxing. He wants to get paid. That's obviously his number one priority. He wants to get paid, and, I could talk about Nick Diaz all day and what's going on with him, what I think he should do, what I think the next fight for GSP should be. I'm just going to go ahead and say I think the next fight for GSP should be Nick Diaz. And I'd love to see that happen, but oh man, as much as recently it seemed like that was going to be the case, that was going to be the scenario. We were looking at GSP, Nick Diaz, but now Nick Diaz supposedly signed on to fight this other guy in a boxing match. So, but anyway, getting back to the point, who's the number one welterweight contender? BJ Penn, John Fitch. John Fitch was, he's going on a winning streak, but his wins, they're not really impressive, okay? He's just, he does the job. He grinds out unanimous decisions, and that's it. It's not exciting. It doesn't sell fights, and that's what the UFC really wants. So Fitch does what he does to get the win, but doesn't truly entertain the fans or come out with these extreme dominant victories like he needs. But I still have to say that Fitch deserves a rematch pretty soon. If not for any reason other than there's nobody else out there who's ready to take on GSP. BJ Penn was put up against John Fitch. I had problems with them arranging that fight in the first place. I don't think that fight should have ever taken place. Because what does it do? I mean, I'm in favor of a ranking system. Let's get these guys ranked somehow so that we can validate who deserves a title shot. But if you put BJ Penn up against John Fitch, both these guys have already been handed their ass by George St-Pierre. So what's the point? What's the real point there? Entertaining fight? Kind of. Does it sell pay-per-views? Does it sell tickets? Yeah. But what does it do in the long run? It's a step backwards for the welterweight division. And if GSP were to become injured, or GSP's next opponent were to become injured, you could argue that either BJ Penn or John Fitch would be the replacement. But that's a very disappointing scenario, and let's hope that doesn't happen. Okay, so like I was saying, who's the #1 contender for the welterweight title? Right now, it would seem like John Fitch. So, you know, Jake Shields, having lost to George St-Pierre, is he like the guy that you need to beat in order to become the #1 contender now? If he is, then, you know, I mean, we got to wait at least 6 months for Shields to be back in shape to fight again, so we can have that #1 contender spot. In the meantime, you know, that's 2 fights. It's like, okay, 6 months for Jake Shields to be ready to fight whoever, and that will determine the #1 contender, which will be another 6 months. So, in that 12-month gap, what is GSP going to do? The thing is, in order for a fighter to stay on top, he's got to constantly be training. He's got to constantly be motivating himself. If he has all this time off without an opponent being announced, what do you think that's going to do to him psychologically? It's probably going to make him a little bit, you know, relaxed. And you never want to be relaxed as a champion. You always want to be pushing yourself, moving forward, constantly, you know, strong and ready for the next challenge. Okay, so here's some fights that I would like to see. I don't feel like Josh Koscheck is in the title picture at all. So, I mean, I think he's really overvalued. Let's say overhyped. So, Koscheck, I'm not really going to consider him. Let's think about this. You got Jake Shields. Can't really talk about Nick Diaz because his future is uncertain. You got Jake Shields. You know, Diego Sanchez just got that win over Campman, but it seemed like Campman won that fight. I mean, I don't know how just the judges gave it to Diego. So he's got that kind of controversy hanging over his head. So we can't really say Diego should be a #1 contender. Can't really say Campman as a #1 contender. Can't really say Condit because Condit lost to Campman, and also Paulo Thiago lost to Campman. So who's basically the #1 contender? The only guy that really has a solid victory over Campman, other than Paul Daly, is Jake Shields. So that brings me back to Jake Shields, and then John Fitch. John Fitch who's been at the top of the rankings, of the unofficial rankings for a long time. I'd like to see a match between them, but that's really not gonna prove the #1 contender for St-Pierre. So I think they should avoid that fight for now. Because, what if Jake Shields were to beat John Fitch? Jake Shields, it doesn't make sense to put him in an immediate rematch against GSP. That fight just wasn't entertaining. It's not like either one of them were on the verge of victory. I don't see a reason for a rematch anytime soon. So, okay, other than Jake Shields, we got John Fitch, and who else is out there? Oh, Dong Hyun Kim, who's on a winning streak. I think he's undefeated too. He's getting ready to fight Condit. Now that's interesting. If Dong Hyun Kim ends up beating Condit, I say he's ready for the title shot. Give him the title shot, or one fight away from the title shot. So I'm keeping my eye on him. I'm hoping that he demonstrates a lot of prowess in this next fight with Condit. But, in my opinion, the welterweight division is a mess right now. Not as bad as the middleweight division, which is a complete mess, which I'm not going to get into. But still, it's a big mess. You got a lot of potential. I wish they'd just get Nick Diaz figured out. And then, what are they going to do with Paul Daly? Daly, I mean, his star is on the decline. He just lost to Nick Diaz. He lost to Koscheck. Way back before he lost to Koscheck, I think he would have made a great contender for George St-Pierre. But that day has gone. That ship has sailed. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on who you think is a really good contender for George St-Pierre. Tell me where you think the welterweight division is headed. All right, thanks for watching this video. I'm your host, the J-Man, and I'll see you guys next time.